the most important job any of us have, more important than anything else, is raising our children. We know that. We can talk all we like about, interestingly, on the campaign trail, parenting was rarely, if ever, mentioned, yet we all know its pivotal impact upon the economic, psychological, fiscal, social, cultural well-being of our country. We always talk about parenting. Oh, gosh, the answer's parenting. But we never actually really analyse what we can do about it, how we can supplement it, how we can make things easier, how we can actually provide some guidance to any great degree. We go and talk about everything but a recent study from Auckland University and conducted overall, the study's co-authors come from a variety of universities, including Essex, I see, and Victoria. But the lead author, Professor Nickola Overall of Auckland University, believes that there are some research that shows that men who hold power and authority in society and over children during family interactions actually do their children harm. And that the traditional concept, if you like, of parenting with the father in charge, mum as the sort of co-worker, and the children being doing what they're told, leads to negative outcomes for their children, in particular for healthy child development, and gives those children behavioural issues, emotional difficulties, and lower academic achievement. Joining us now to talk about the study and the overall conclusions and the implications for parenting of us all and for us all is Dr Nickola Overall, the Professor of Psychology at Auckland University. First of all, my apologies. Welcome to the show. Have I got your first name right? Sorry.
Hi, good morning, Michael. My name is Nickola, like Coca-Cola. Yeah.
Nickola. Nickola. Okay.
Yeah.
Where did there's a K in there, Nickola. Did your mum and dad put the K in?
They did. For no good reason. We all have, I come from a large family. There's 5 girls. I'm the middle of 5 girls, and we all have very different names. And I think that maybe they'd watched a movie or something, and it was the name. That was the name that I was given.
Oh, no, so. Fair enough. No, well, no, we all work there. Now, you are a professor, as I understand, at Auckland University. Did your background is what, psychology with an emphasis on family psychology?
That's right. So I most of my research focuses on couple and family psychology.
And this latest survey that you've conducted in concert with 4 other academics, you're looking at what, traditional parenting in the sense of male dominant, female sort of co-manager submissive, children doing as they're told. Is that what you were looking at?
Really? Well, the study that we'll talk about is part of a larger program focused on identifying how different types of families overcome challenges like conflict and stress, and parenting difficulties, because we know that how mothers and fathers are managing those broader stressful issues bleed into the way they parent their children. And as you nicely outlined, the outcome of parenting is so critical for healthy child development and then who we all become as people in our society. So really we're trying to identify the factors that shape different types of parenting, to identify how to support healthy families and healthy parenting. And one of those factors that we examined was parents' attitudes about gender relations. So it's not really about the specific gender roles like father in charge, mother at home. It's more about there are different types of attitudes that underlie the way that men and women might manage those roles. And one of those attitudes, a hostile set of attitudes, is about thinking about men's and women's role as a contest for power. And it was those particular attitudes, not the structure, that tended to undermine the degree to which parents were being responsive to their children and family interactions.
I've been a single parent for many years and raising three under teenage, and now they're all teenagers now, children. And that is a sort of, I guess, almost a cliche of New Zealand, in actual fact, that there are a number of single parents and reconstituted families in New Zealand where either the male, usually the female in actual fact, ends up as the sole parent. Did you look at that as well in context where there isn't a male and a female, or two females or two males parenting?
Yeah, that's a really good question. This larger study that we're doing is focused on parents who are together and not parents who are alone. But of course, you're absolutely right that the way our family composition is so diverse. And there are a lot of parents on their own. What we're hoping to uncover is the ways that one of the reasons why we're studying the two-parent system is because we're trying to look at the dynamics between people, between adults, that influence the way we raise our kids. And more broadly, though, we hope to understand how that applies to all kinds of families, including families that parent with grandparents, like extended families.
Yep.
Yeah, and also when parents are on their own, and the kinds of support networks they might have that aren't necessarily a partner, even living in the house, but their wider family network that also helps to support healthy parenting.
All right, so let's go to the study itself. You talk about emphasis, and the current studies emphasise the importance of understanding attitudes affecting parenting. And a pivotal overlooked domain that is intricate is the gender roles that reinforce gender inequality. What do you mean by that? Do you mean that when men are in charge and say, I'm in charge, I make the decisions?
What I mean by that is that we often ignore the fact that in situations where there is a mother and father, we come into that situation with specific types of beliefs and attitudes about the specific roles that mothers and fathers should have. And there are a variety of ways that we think about that. But the one set of beliefs is involves men holding the authority and power and women deferring to men. And what we know about those attitudes is that both people that agree with those attitudes more tend to be more dissatisfied. They tend to find to report lower well-being. They tend to have lower quality relationships with their partners. And we wanted to understand how that influenced the way couples were working together with their children. And we found that both mothers and fathers tended to agree that men and women were kind of fighting for power, and that men should hold power, were not as responsive in their family interactions as those who held attitudes, regardless of what role men and women were in, that they shared power and they worked together to both hold power in families.
But just so I clearly understand it. You're talking about traditional parenting, almost the sort of traditional parenting of what the 1950s and 60s and maybe 70s, where dad worked, mum stayed at home, the kids had their role. A dad would come home, tea would be put on the table, mum was primarily in charge of the homework or the housework and things like that, and dad would tend to make the big financial and family decisions. Have I got that right? Is that how you're defining the model that you think has an imbalance of power in gender relationships?
Yes. Yes, not necessarily just that women are home and not working. So our families are like many families in New Zealand, where both mothers and fathers are working or sharing different types of work composition, right, and sharing parenting. but that when you're focused on the decision making within the family, that there is a deference toward men feeling as though they should have the power and authority.
What happens though when it's the woman, can I ask? So, for example, let's flip it. And I've observed this myself, in fact, in my own family, not my family now, but in my mother and my father. My mother was the dominant partner in that question. Does the same still apply at your conclusions, that that's a bad thing too, if you were to have the female that is emotionally dominant and makes the primary financial decisions and is in charge, and the male is subservient in those relationships?
Yes. So really, what's interesting? Yes, the answer to that question is yes, because really, the take home, like mothers and fathers are both hold these different types of attitudes, and it affects both mothers and fathers' parenting behaviour and the relationship between them. And so, I really think that the key take home message from the study that I'd like to emphasise is that both mothers and fathers who can hold attitudes about the way men and women respond and share power are going to be able to be more flexibly responsive to their children, because they're not constraining how either one of them should behave in the way that they're interacting with their family.